Welcome everyone to the May Lunch and Learn for the Food Innovation and Business Hub. My name's Erin Norton. I'm one of the co-directors of the Food Innovation and Business Hub, and I'm really pleased to introduce our presenter today. Alex is a business specialist within the hub. He got his undergraduate degree here at Iowa State with a focus in marketing. And Alex brings a lot of experience from running some of his own food businesses in the past. So he's going to talk to us today about how to identify our customers and really figure out what those customers are looking for. And so I'm the only thing I do want to say, if you have any questions, please put them in either the chat or the Q&A, and we'll get to those towards the end. Also, these presentations are recorded and we do post them on our website. So please go check them out there and pass them on to anyone else if you enjoy this presentation. All right, let's pass it over to Alex. Take it away.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to do a high-level overview on how to identify your customer. When we talk about building a successful food business, one of the most important starting points is knowing who your customer is. Your customer drives everything you do. Most importantly, it helps you determine your price because different customers are willing to pay for different things, whether that's convenience, quality, or experience. It also helps guide your marketing decisions. If you don't know who you're trying to reach, it's really hard to know what to say or where to show up. Identifying your customer also helps you choose where to sell. The right product in the wrong place often won't perform well, but the right product in the right market can do very well. Overall, it saves you time and money. Instead of guessing or trying to appeal to everyone, you can focus your efforts where they'll actually pay off. One of the biggest mistakes I see new food businesses make is saying, my product is for everyone. It sounds like a good thing. You want as many customers as possible, but in reality, no product is for everyone. When you try to appeal to everyone, you usually end up not strongly connecting with anyone. Successful businesses do the opposite. They focus on a specific group of people who have a specific need. That might be gluten-free consumers who are struggling to find good options. It could be busy parents looking for a quick, ready-to-eat product. Maybe it's fitness-focused customers or people who really care about supporting local food. The key is this: when you clearly define who you're serving, everything else gets easier. Your messaging is clear, your product makes more sense, and your customers are much more likely to buy. I want to start by flipping how a lot of people think about business ideas. Most people start with the product and then try to convince themselves there's a market for it. Successful businesses do the opposite. They start with a problem that a very specific group of people is already experiencing and then build a solution around that. Having a great idea does not automatically mean there's demand for it. Customers aren't buying products, they're buying solutions, convenience, peace of mind, identity, or relief from frustration. When you clearly understand the problem you're solving, everything else gets easier. Your marketing becomes clear because you know who you're talking to. Pricing makes more sense because you understand the value, and the sales feel less forced because the solution fits a need. The clearer you are on the problem, the less guesswork there is everywhere else. Customers rarely buy something just because it exists. They buy because it solves a real need. Once you've identified the problem, the next step is understanding your product or service through that lens. The first question to ask is, what problem does this actually solve? Not what it does, but what frustration or challenge it removes for someone. Next, who is dealing with that problem on a regular basis? If it's an occasional inconvenience, people are much less likely to pay for a solution. And then the last piece, how are they solving it today? Even if it's an inefficient or frustrating way. People almost always already have a workaround. They're using a competitor, doing it themselves, ignoring it, or settling for a bad solution. Understanding those current behaviors is important because you're not competing against nothing, you're competing against the status quo. The better you understand how people cope with the problem today, the easier it is to position your product as a clear improvement. It's just as important to step back and ask whether the product is working for customers. It's easy to assume people like what you like, but taste preferences vary widely, especially as you move beyond your immediate circle. Friends and family are often supportive, but they tend to be too nice to give the kind and honest feedback that helps a business improve. Most people don't want to hurt feelings, so vague praise can mask real issues with flavor, texture, price, or packaging. That's why gathering more unbiased input is crucial. Whether through structured tasting surveys or supported from resources like the Food Innovation and Business Hub, honest feedback helps fine-tune products before scaling, saving time, money, and frustration. Let's do a simple exercise. It's one of the most useful ones you can do when you're thinking about a business idea. I want you to finish this sentence. I can help blank who struggle with blank by offering blank. The first blank is who you help. Be as specific as possible. The second blank is the problem they're dealing with, not the product itself. And the last blank is what you offer to help solve it. Don't overthink this and don't worry about getting it perfect. This is just a working statement. If you get stuck, focus on the problem first and let the solution come last. We're using this to make sure the idea starts with a need and a group of people, not just a product you want to sell. A common concern I hear is my target market isn't big enough. The reality is, especially for small businesses, you don't need a big target market. You need the right one. Small businesses win by being specific, not by trying to sell to everyone. Narrow markets are easier to reach, easier to serve well, and easier to price because you understand their needs better. And starting narrow doesn't mean you're stuck there forever. You can always expand later once you've proven demand. Starting with a focused market reduces risks and helps you build a transaction faster. To start focusing on the target market, think about things like their age, income, lifestyle, and dietary preferences. Also consider where they're located and how they typically shop. The better you understand these details, the easier it is to create a product and experience that fits their need. You don't need complicated tools to understand your customer. Simple research goes a long way. Visit places like farmers markets or local shops and pay attention to what's selling, what sells out, and how things are priced. Talk to people and listen, and check reviews online to see what customers are saying. And remember, if people are already buying something similar, that's usually a good sign there's demand. The difference between a broad market and a targeted market, on the left are some examples I hear all the time. People who like baked goods, people at the farmer's market, people who like candles, people who like salsa. And on the right, we see what a more specific targeted market would look like, what situations they're in and why they're buying. Office managers buying treats for staff meetings, health conscientious shoppers looking for high protein breakfasts, gift buyers with a price point in mind, or home cooks who care about small batch and local ingredients. The product might be similar, but the message, pricing, and sales approach change completely once the market is clearly defined. This level of specificity is what makes small businesses competitive. So if you're wondering how to start your target market, this is a process I recommend. First, start with the problem. Ask yourself what problem your product or service solves and who experiences that problem most often. The frequency matters. People are much more willing to pay for solutions to problems they deal with regularly. Next, look at who is already buying similar products. This isn't about copying competitors. It's about learning from the market. Who are they selling to? What price range are consumers already comfortable with? And what kind of messaging seems to resonate? Then once you have that information, narrow it down. Instead of saying parents, you might say working parents with kids under 10, or even more specifically, shift working parents who need flexible care. Each time you narrow the market, your messaging becomes clear and your business decisions get easier. You can always expand later, but starting focus helps you build something that works. Let's look at a quick example with sourdough bread. Sourdough stands out because it has fewer ingredients, a unique flavor, and that artisan handmade feel that naturally attracts certain customers. People who value quality, cleaner ingredients, or better everyday products like sandwich bread. From there, you can get more specific. Instead of saying everyone, you might target something like health conscientious millennials or busy families who want a better option. That level of clarity is what helps a product connect. Once you've identified your target customer, everything else should align with them. It affects where you sell, how you market your product, how you package it, and what you charge. It also helps you decide what you offer, and just as importantly, what you don't. At the end of the day, your customer should be guiding your decisions, not guesswork. Here's a quick example of a customer persona. This is Sarah. She's 34, a teacher, and lives a busy, health conscientious lifestyle. She shops at farmers market and natural food stores. Her main problem is that she needs quick, healthy snacks that fit into her day. When you think about a real person like this, it becomes much easier to design products, pricing, and marketing. As you work through identifying your customer, these are some of the key questions to keep in mind. Who is most likely to buy your product? And just as important, who isn't? What problem are you solving for them? Where are they already shopping? And what can they realistically afford? If you can clearly answer these, you're in a really strong position to build something that sells. If you're interested in learning more about webinars like this, please join our Facebook page. We'll be posting on there regularly. We also have some fact sheets and other materials that can help people out. And for the rest of the seminar, I'd like to open it up to a forum style discussion. If anyone has any kind of questions, we can talk through some of these examples. We can talk through the Sarah example as well, and identify what kinds of things she would be looking for, what she might be interested in a farmer's market.
All right. So part of these lunch and learns, we'd like to get some discussion happening and find out what else within this topic have people been seeing and what questions might they have. I do want to say those are some really great real life kind of examples, Alex, bringing us, from the high level into how we should be thinking about it. So as someone that makes a product here at Iowa State, I really appreciate that. So any questions or comments, please feel free to type those into the chat. We'll be monitoring that to get those questions to Alex. I'm just trying to open both of them up and make sure that that I facilitate any of those questions. Alex, do you want to talk about maybe someone that already has a product and thinking about scaling and finding a new market source or a new, set of clients? Is there any differentiation you would say as someone's wanting to grow their business?
Definitely. I think focusing a lot on what we talked about today, applying those same concepts to what your current market is. Going beyond that, I'd really talk to your current market. So if you're at farmers markets selling cinnamon rolls, for example, ask your customers, ask your repeat customers, why do you keep coming back? What are you using this for? Have that engaging conversation with them. And then once we have more details about that, we can start to understand how to scale up that product. A good example might be cinnamon rolls. And we'll use Sarah as an example from our previous slide. She's working and she's a teacher, so she's probably looking for an early morning snack or a late afternoon snack. The way we found that out is we just had that discussion with her after the second or third time coming back. And we just asked questions like, hey, how's your day going? Did you have a busy week? And she said, yeah, I watched a lot of kids. So we know she's a teacher. She's only buying single serving items of this. So we can kind of infer that it's a snack based item. And with our product, when we see that, initially we go, okay, well, what size product are we giving them? Is this a 100-gram product, 150-gram product? And we can really scale it down if it needs to be a snack, or we can scale it up to the 150 to 200-gram item when we know that it's going to be a full, complete breakfast. And from there, we can determine that, well, she probably has other teachers in her office that may be interested in something like this. So we really hone in, we start marketing towards that group of people. We might give her business cards, we might give her flyers, we might do various things like that. And going back to that product with the scaling, if we want to narrow it down more of a snack level, we can do a 50-gram product. And when we do our pricing it out and we understand our costs well enough, we can find that, we can make larger scale batches and reduce our overall costs for our product. So we're actually making more in the long run if we find out that she doesn't want this as a snack, reduce it in size, and then increase our batch sizes.
So I hear a lot, Alex, or one of the key takeaways is engage with those customers, and the conversations you have can be really insightful. Don't just take them as surface level, selling a product and then you're done with that client or that customer. You've got an opportunity to learn what they're looking for, what their lifestyle might be like, without prying, obviously,
Yes.
but using that information to understand how it could help your business as well.
Correct. And a little bit what I've done throughout the presentation, and as Aaron and I are talking here a little bit, we're using the terms customers, but a lot of these people are going to be your consumers. This same idea applies to customers as well. So consumers are going to be those end people that eat your product or consume in some way or use it. Your customer could be someone you're selling to. So if you're under the home food processing establishment and you sell to a different location that then sells your product again, that intermediary location is going to be your customer. And ways to interact with them, you can do the same thing. Talk to that person at the counter. Just ask them questions. Oh, do you see this go off the shelves easily? Do you see people stop and look at this product very often? And then try to build that product around what they're doing. Are they picking it up and feeling that crunch of a bag and putting it right back down? Well, that might indicate that you might need some new type of packaging.
Yeah, and I love that call out between the customer and the consumer. That's there's that middle person. Even if someone's maybe buying something as a gift for someone else, they're not necessarily that end consumer. So understanding how your products are being purchased and then consumed ultimately as well. And
Right.
one thing Alex brought up that I think we will definitely cover in a future topic. So I just want to just touch briefly on it. Maybe Alex can, but pricing these products or pricing your product and how you should begin doing that, I think is a topic for a whole other Lunch and Learn, perhaps a longer series, because there's probably lots of ins and outs with that. But is that a big consideration when you're going through this process of identifying that customer, is identifying that price point?
It is. That's very important. What we found and throughout our research is usually about a 30% margin is what customers or consumers are willing to tolerate. And we see, especially with the cottage food and home food processing establishments, it goes beyond that 30% margin. And when that happens, we sell a lot less product. We may sell at a higher value for that product, and we're thinking we're making a profit from it. But all of our costs that went into it, we're losing out on that. And we do have an upcoming webinar on that. I believe it's at the end of the month. If you follow our Facebook page, I think we're going to be making some posts about that shortly. With that webinar, we're going to really understand our costs. And the most crucial thing about that webinar is going to be your own labor being input into the cost of your product. And from there, you can apply to whatever margin you'd like. When we run our calculators and we do this process with people on a one-on-one basis, we often see what they're charging doesn't account all their costs into it, and they could be charging less and actually getting more of those customers that are very price sensitive.
Alex, I have another question about, and I asked about scaling up and whether you're doing the same process if you're looking at scaling up. What if someone is selling into a retail establishment? So they're selling into a Hy-Vee, into even a store on their main street. So they're not interacting with that consumer directly. Are they getting that information from that intermediary, or do they need to how would they go about that to understand their consumer, that end person?
Definitely. That's a good question. I would strongly recommend going into the store, especially if you're selling locally, and just stand in that aisle or fake shop, and look at the people that are walking by that product. Are they taking a glance at it? Are they picking it up? Are they putting it down? Are they just walking by? And stay there for about an hour. It's usually worth your time to do that, because then you can pick up little clues of what the customer's doing. So I strongly encourage that. That's what a lot of big businesses do. Frito-Lay, for example, most of the time we walk into some place like Hy-Vee or Fairway, we see them stocking shelves. What that person is actually doing, as well as stocking shelves and fronting their products, they're keeping track of the people that walk by them, the people that grab the Lay's potato chips, what brand, what style. The next thing you can do is you can track what sales you already have. So if you're in a Fairway or Hy-Vee, you may have 2 products on the shelf, you may have 3 or 4. Start doing some analytics on it. Look at what products you're selling. Try to get that information from the customer themselves, so at Fairway or Hy-Vee, of when they sell or how they sell, the bulk, the weeks, and track that data over a period of time. And then, so if we see a large uptick in customer orders from Fairway during the winter, we know that our product might be a holiday product. So we can really focus some holiday marketing into that, or some holiday packaging, tying ribbons, grabbing some attention. And then the third way to do that is to talk to the cashiers, talk to that customer, talk to that store manager. The store manager might not have all the information, they might have the data behind it. But if you go to the cashier with your product in hand and you pretend to be a purchaser, and you sit on the conveyor belt, spark up that conversation with them. Hey, do you see a lot of people buy it? I picked this up and I wasn't so sure about it, but it looks really good and really interesting. That's usually when that cashier comes back. Oh, yeah, we see this all the time. Or, oh, I thought about purchasing it myself, but, and that but's really important. And we change our product based on that but.
No, those are all really great tips. We've got a quiet group here today, which is totally fine. I'm I'm enjoying the conversation, and I think Alex is giving us a lot of great information to maybe go home and digest. And this will be, I did put the YouTube link for all of our previous recordings. This link will be up there as well. Or this video will be up there as well by, I would say, within the week. One final question, I guess, Alex, if no one else has any other questions, do you see any trends in products right now? With new products that are coming out, things that people are getting into. I just attended a dairy industry research discussion, and they were very heavily focused on protein, high protein this, and obviously dairy types of products. And it just got me thinking, what are we seeing in the either through your work as a business specialist or just I know you're really in tune with various consumer groups and things like that. What kinds of products are we seeing pop up and trendy?
That's an excellent question. So one of the biggest things we're looking at right now are those GLP-1s. So people are consuming less calories because of that. So a lot of our snack products are being fortified with things like protein just to get those calories back in. Um, so when we look at that shift alone, we're looking at more health conscientious, or how do we get healthy ingredients into our products. So if your protein balls are a good example of that. You mentioned the dairy industry. A big one with that is going to be their dirty sodas. They've seen a massive uptick in those, which are cream added to things like Mountain Dew, Coca-Cola. You're essentially just making a cream soda, but you're at home. Um, I've seen an uptick in demand for cinnamon rolls if we're at the cottage food level. Um, and I hear we're going to have a great frosting lunch and learn coming up soon. So that's a good opportunity to learn how you can do that yourself. I've seen an uptick in cookies, not necessarily the small Toll House usually size cookies, the very big one, crumble kind of cookies. That fad has turned more into a trend. At the cottage and home food processing level, I see a lot of issues because of the size of it. The centers don't tend to get cooked all the way. So I do just caution people with that. We've seen a downward trend a little bit in our sourdoughs, just turning sourdoughs into just about everything. People are trying to find new creative ways to do that. Another big thing that we're just on the brink of doing, or looking at in the market, is how to make value added product out of your value added products. So we're returning home a lot with those leftover sourdough breads. What can we do with that to convert it into something we can also sell? So we're not just taking that loss. So things like croutons, for example. A little of that expands also into how do we store our product for long term, um, just how to use it in different ways. On the snack shelves, starting to see a lot more high protein things, things that are readily and easy to eat and access that you don't have to have a microwave for. I'm thinking specifically people that are going to the gym or something, they just want to reach in their bag, rip something out that doesn't have to be refrigerated or heated, that has a good source of those nutritional values that we need. Um, Snack products after consuming alcohol has always been a very hot topic. Another one that we've seen on the customer ends a big demand for, that hasn't the market hasn't yet provided, is portion sizes. So we talked a little bit about that, about those 100-gram, 150-gram items, especially with massive cinnamon rolls with piled high icing. A lot of consumers tend to want smaller portions. They don't want to feel as full with that. They don't want to have leftovers. And when your product is left over with that, it kind of goes bad quickly because it's half eaten. And then the next day when we consume it again, we don't have that same feeling with the product we had when we took that first bite. So customers and consumers are less likely to come back and purchase that product again for the next week. Not only portion sizes, though, we also see container sizes. So focusing back on cinnamon rolls, we see serving sizes, trays of 6 for the portion that's given in a batch. Most families might have 3 people total in them. 6 is just too many for them, so they might be looking for just that 3 batch size in a tray, or 2 or 4. So really understanding how big of a product you're serving, as well as how many are in that package.
Awesome. I love all those call outs. Some of them are really great ideas. I love the idea of the value added from value added. That's uh maybe that's a future lunch and learn of talking about how we can maximize and not waste some of those products. I did want to call out as well. We've got some other presentations coming up besides our Lunch and Learn series, which I'll highlight what's coming up next for that in just a second. If you're near Harlan, Iowa, there's on May 7th, so in a couple of days, there is a cottage law presentation. So I believe Penny, our colleague Penny, who talked last time, will be giving that presentation in Harlan. So she'll be going more in depth into the cottage law presentation. Stay tuned to our website for other places around the state for that. There's another one coming up, really important FDA type training coming up for preventive controls for human food. So this is part of the FSMA training. So we're doing that here in Ames, and it's a 3-day training. But if you need to have that preventive controls for human food for whatever your business is, or if you know someone that would need that, please pass along that we're going to be offering that June 2nd to 4th. And then our next couple of lunch and learns, I just wanted to highlight what we've got coming up in June 9th. So it will be actually the second week because of that other FSMA training we are doing. We've got Food Safety 101, understanding water activity, pH, and microorganisms, and how it's a little more complicated than just looking at moisture content when we're talking about water activity, how that affects microorganisms and both spoilage, but pathogens as well, and how we can support you here at the Food Innovation and Business Hub to make sure that the foods that you are selling are safe. And then also in July, we'll expand on that and talk about what analytical services we have at the Food Innovation and Business Hub in our lab. So if you need to be monitoring water activity, or you are interested in some of the other analytical testing, we'll talk about what we have available and who would need to use those services. And then just because Alex mentioned it, our last scheduled, but we're going to come out with a new schedule here very soon, but our last scheduled for the moment in August is shelf-stable frosting. So Hannah and I will be telling you all about what we've learned in terms of frosting, and hopefully we'll have a new resource published by then, and we can share that with you. We're hoping that this is going to make frostings a little more available to our home based food operators and our cottage food operators. So we will see. We've got some good findings. I think we're moving in a positive direction for that. So stay tuned for shelf stable frostings. If no one has any other questions, I saw someone typing in the chat, but I'm not sure. Please feel free to reach out to us. Our website is linked on the screen there, and our contact information, and there's a whole contact form on that website. Please reach out. We are happy. We have a team of food safety, food business, and analytical experts to support you in what you need, even if it's a quick one-off question. And if we don't have the answer, we will find it for you. So I want to thank everyone for joining today. Look for this presentation on our YouTube channel within the next week, and hopefully we will see you in June to talk about food safety. And thank you so much to Alex for great presentation, tons of good information. Please feel free to come back to this presentation to get those tips. All right, thanks everyone. We'll see you in June.